give a great big KetoCon welcome to Matt Gallant.
Thank you. Super excited to be here. My name is Matt Gallant. I am the CEO, co-founder of Bioptimizers, and we build amazing supplements that will help you get healthier. I'm going to be sharing everything from very basic to advanced strategies on how you can basically get more out of your ketogenic diet. As most of you know, ketogenic diets can certainly sharpen your mind and improve your health. I was 190 pounds when I was 15 years old, and I was visiting my grandfather. My uncle called me fat, and that, of course, hurt my feelings, and I decided, you know what, I got to drop the weight. Started doing some research, found out about the Atkins diet, and I did my first ketogenic diet. That was 30 years ago, and it worked. I went from 190 pounds to 147 pounds over 6 months. Then I went to the beach one summer. I saw two jacked bodybuilders, and the bodybuilding bug hit me. I went from 147 to 235 pounds over 3 years using a variation, which I'll talk about in a little bit, called the anabolic diet. And that's what I want to share today. I want to share a lot of different variations of the ketogenic diet. And then at 19, I decided to compete. I lost 64 pounds in 14 weeks. I don't recommend doing that. But I was able to, again, use a carnivore diet before the name ever was termed. I was basically eating ground beef every day, and that was it. So overall, keto has helped me, again, build muscle, lose fat at will, get lean, get prepared. But what got me into this industry was helping my best friend lose 191 pounds in 18 months. He was 400 pounds. And I said, hey, come to the gym, try this diet. Again, we were using the anabolic diet. And to see his transformation go from literally a virgin to being married in a couple of years and seeing the entire emotional and psychological transformation really inspired me. And I built 2 personal training companies and helped a lot of people. And now we're doing this at mass. So we're going to talk about a few things I've learned. And one of them is that some people thrive on a ketogenic diet and other people don't. I used to be a keto zealot, and I believe that everybody should be on a ketogenic diet. I'm here to tell you that for some people, it's not a good idea, and we'll talk about why a little bit. Keto, of course, is being studied more and more, and it does have some unique benefits. But I do want to emphasize that the magic of a ketogenic diet in terms of weight loss comes from the calorie deficit. Okay, the ketogenic diet is not a magic diet. And again, getting into ketosis can certainly change your life if you have the right genetics for it. I'm going to talk about the 4 phases of a ketogenic diet. And again, I'm going to be covering some beginner things and some advanced things. So there's going to be some information here for everyone. Some of the research that's been done on the ketogenic diet, they found that it helped 95.2% of people with type 2 diabetes improve their blood sugar and their insulin. So it's a very good diet for that. In a 24-week study, and again, it showed significant improvements in body weight, body mass index, and blood pressure. Now keep in mind, though, the weight loss comes from the calorie deficit. I just want to keep emphasizing that. 2018 did a study that showed that it could be a good adjunct therapy for cancer patients, meaning that if you're on other therapies and you're following a ketogenic diet, it might improve the results even further. Let's talk about why the ketogenic diet works. And this is true for almost every type of diet. By going from a standard American diet to a ketogenic diet, people will naturally lower their calories by eliminating processed foods. So again, being in a calorie deficit is what improves your health and will obviously lead to weight loss. For a lot of people, myself included, there's a psychological advantage to being on a ketogenic diet. By limiting choices, you limit your food cravings. There's been research done when people eat a bigger variety of food, they have more food cravings. So by paring down, by eliminating a lot of different food options, you're personally, and again for a lot of other people, it makes it easier to follow the diet. Ketogenic diet also naturally drives people to what we call the simplest dieting secret. And the simplest dieting secret is not really a huge secret for people that are competitors, athletes, professional bodybuilders, fitness competitors, but outside of that world, most people don't know it. And that is, you eat the same thing almost every day. Now, you don't need to be militant about this, but Almost every professional athlete I've ever worked with or know eats the same thing almost every day. Now, why do they do that? Because it removes the decision-making process. When it comes to diet and fitness, you're better off not making decisions once the strategy is in place. If I give you a ketogenic diet to follow, there's no more thinking that needs to be done. You simply need to be doing it and executing it. So by eating the same thing every day, when it comes to your breakfast or your lunch or your snacks or your dinner, you don't need to be thinking, what am I going to eat today? Because every time you ask the question, what am I going to eat? You're opening up the door for potentially making the wrong decision. So again, not a necessary thing, but I do find that people naturally do that. And just to give you an example for myself, I was eating recently some low carb seaweed pasta with tomato sauce and meat for like 2 months straight for dinner. That's all I ate every day. And once I get tired of that, I move on to the next meal. So it's just a great strategy, and I strongly recommend you follow that. And again, you don't need to be militant about it. As I mentioned, some people are genetically wired to thrive on a ketogenic diet. They feel better and have more energy than when they're eating carbs. So if you're already in a ketogenic diet and you feel awesome, then you're probably one of these people. And of course, because steaks rock, especially here in Austin, and ketogenic diets are higher in protein, and protein is the king macro for satiety, anabolism, and successful weight loss. And that's a critical point that I want to emphasize in my presentation today, is the importance of protein. I'm going to give you some really advanced, effective strategies for losing weight by reducing fat and maintaining protein levels. Let's talk about the 4 phases of the ketogenic diet. Who here is either starting or thinking about starting a ketogenic diet? Like the first 2 weeks, everybody here is a pro. So obviously phase 1 is you're getting into a ketogenic diet. It's your first 14 days. Who here is between, let's say, 3 weeks and 3 months? You just got started, but you got a little bit of momentum. Is everybody too shy, or is everybody advanced? Is everybody in phase 3, 3 months to a year? Okay, a few hands, awesome. And who here has been on a ketogenic diet for more than a year? Okay, awesome. So we're talking to pros. I've got a lot of advanced stuff for you guys, but let's go through the phases, and I'm going to give you a lot of practical tips to improve each phase. So when you're getting started, most people have never depleted their glycogen. Right? They've been eating carbs since they're a baby, and they've never forced their body to build lipolytic pathways, which we're going to get into. So of course, they lower their carbs, they consume more fat, and what happens is your body has to force itself to improve its fat burning capabilities. A lot of people go through, of course, what's called the keto flu. It's not really a flu, it's like flu-like symptoms, but you can easily solve that. So for all your friends, this is really important because I know most of the room here has been on a ketogenic diet, but these tips can really help your friends and family go through the keto flu stage with flying colors. So the first thing is you want to use ketones. Why? Because your body's not very good at this phase to break down fat and build ketones and utilize those ketones for energy. So there's a couple of popular ketones. There's salt and esters. My opinion and my experience is I strongly recommend esters. The salts are problematic because if you take too much of it, you will have digestive issues. The esters, I've done as much as 50 grams a day when I do hardcore brain training or other really intense physical activity. So with the esters, there's almost no digestive issues. Ketone Aid and HVMN are really good ketone ester brands. MCT oils is another option that will also increase your ketones. MCT oils, you got to be careful because, again, you can have disaster pants if you don't know what that means. It means as you're running to the bathroom, you don't quite make it. I think Dave Asprey coined that term. So, again, be careful with your dosage on MCT oils. I prefer MCT oil powder. It's not as problematic. Of course, you need to eat high fat. We want to force our body to start using fat for energy. Use Capex. That's one of our products. It's a product that I designed to help improve your digestion on a ketogenic diet. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And optimize your minerals. A lot of people will become mineral deficient on a ketogenic diet, and we'll talk a bit about how to fix that later. So between the 3 weeks and 3 month phase, you're out of the keto flu, which is awesome. You're going to start regaining your energy. You're going to feel better because your body's starting to learn how to produce and burn ketones. Your lipolytic pathways, your fat burning pathways are getting stronger. And this is a great time to start playing around with fasting. Why? Because fasting is going to improve your lipolytic pathways even further. Now, again, some people overfast, some people shouldn't fast. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But in my opinion, doing a little bit of fasting at this phase is a really good idea. All right, phase 3, metabolic flexibility. So if you've been on again, ketogenic diet between, say, 3-4 months and a year, your body's starting to become very efficient at burning fats. You're going to find that your athletic performance or your workout performance is improving. A lot of people, when they get on a ketogenic diet, they notice that they don't have the same pop in the gym. Okay, that's normal. But after that 3-month period, they start feeling better and they start regaining some of that lost performance. Now, here's my first pro tip. This is a time where you want to start decreasing your fat levels and increasing your protein content. And I'll share why in just a moment, but it's a really powerful strategy, especially if your goal is weight loss or muscle building. This is also the time where I love to introduce cyclical refeeds or cyclical keto, which I'm going to give you some examples of that in just a moment. And after that, after about a year, this is what I call total fat adaptation. This is the phase where you're almost always in ketosis. So again, I've been doing cyclical keto for about 30 years, and I started measuring my ketones on Saturday and Sundays. Now keep in mind, I'm eating 400 to 500 grams of carbs a day. I was still in ketosis. I thought, okay, that makes sense. I'm just riding the wave, and I was always measuring my blood ketones, and I was still in ketosis. So about 4 years ago, I'm building a product called Blood Sugar Breakthrough. And to test all the prototypes, I had to eat 250 grams of carbs a day. So I did that for 2 weeks. I'm testing my blood sugar and my ketones multiple times a day. I was still in ketosis 14 days later after eating 250 grams of carbs. It was 0.5 to 0.7 to 0.8 millimoles using Keto Mojo. So that's the level you can get to where I'm always in ketosis. It doesn't matter pretty much what I eat. My body's using ketones, building ketones and carbohydrates, glucose as well. So at this phase, what's fun is you can start to introduce more carbs in your diet again if you want to. And some people feel better with, again, a moderate amount of carbohydrates. And with the cyclical refeeds, you can use that to build muscle and you can use that to improve athletic performance. And it's also one of the best lifestyle strategies, right? You want to go eat a plate of pasta on the weekend with your friends. You want to go eat a pizza. Again, I'm not advocating go to McDonald's, but you can essentially go eat carbs on the weekend and still be in ketosis at this phase, which is awesome. You can also start really lowering your fat as a percentage and stay in ketosis because your body's so good at breaking down fat. Your lipolytic pathways are so strong at this point that you can start reducing your fat and you're going to stay in ketosis. Anybody here on a weight loss journey? Awesome. So weight loss, obviously, like I said, I've struggled with my own weight the majority of my life. And the number one thing that I've enjoyed doing as a trainer was helping people lose weight. And a lot of people make the mistake of oversimplifying weight loss. They look at the top of this graphic and they're looking at carbs, calories, proteins, and fats. Of course, those things matter. But as we go below the surface, we see there's metabolism. And behind that, there's genetics, there's nutrigenomics, there's epigenetics. Of course, the DNA companies here, these guys are awesome. There's also the starvation, survival, self-defense mechanisms that kick in when people lose too much weight too fast. And if we go even deeper, we see that people are mostly emotionally eating because they're trying to escape their pains and their traumas. So we're not going to get too deep into a lot of the sub-elements of that, but I do want to share that weight loss is a complicated thing and you need to use every strategy humanly possible, and that's a graphic from our upcoming book that's going to be released in the fall, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But let's cover the fundamentals of weight loss. So there's a few basic truths that everybody needs to follow. There's no escaping these. And one of them is that you need to be in a calorie deficit over time. No one has escaped the laws of thermodynamics. A lot of people will tell you, well, I can eat whatever I want. You can eat whatever you want. That is true, but you cannot eat however much you want. And there's a big difference. So why does a ketogenic diet work? Because as I mentioned, most people will drastically reduce their calories, especially their net calories, as they go from eating a standard American diet to a ketogenic diet. Now, here's something that not a lot of nutrition experts talk about. You want to focus on decreasing what's called net calories. Net calories is different than gross calories, and I'll show you an example in just a moment. Key number 2 is you want to focus on increasing your calories out in a variety of ways. I'm going to share with you what we call our optimized metabolism approach in just a moment. Number 3, and this is a really big one. Remember I said I lost 64 pounds in 14 weeks. It was a very poor strategy. I lost a lot of muscle mass. And again, I would never do that again today because I know now that you need to take your time. So what I mean by taking your time, here's a piece of research that came out of Australia a few years ago. They took 2 groups. One group dieted nonstop for 16 weeks. The other group dieted for 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and they kept doing that. So the dieting time was twice as long. So what was the difference? Well, one, they lost about the same amount of body fat, but there was one key difference. And that key difference was the group that took diet breaks, their metabolic adaptation was a lot less, meaning that the metabolism was a lot stronger. So that's a very important point. And for those of you that need to lose, let's say, more than 40 or 50 pounds to achieve your goal, it's really critical that you take your time to achieve that. So diet breaks does not mean that you go and eat whatever you want. Diet breaks mean that you go to maintenance. So you go from being in a calorie deficit to being on maintenance. So whatever maintenance is for you at that time. And that changes. So let's say you start your diet and you're at 2,500 calories and you're losing weight. 6 months later, if you've lost 20, 30 pounds, you might be down to 2,000 calories at maintenance. So again, that thing moves over time. And the other strategy is refeeds. Again, so refeed, what is a refeed? It means that you are refeeding your body carbohydrates or you're refeeding calories. And I'll talk about some of the advanced strategies you can do. Now, here's the other major mistake. And by the way, the success rate long-term for weight loss is 3%. 97% of people fail long-term. One of the main reasons is what I'm about to say. They achieve their weight loss. So the 3% success rate isn't people that achieve it. A lot of people achieve their weight loss. Where they fail is they do not set up the next goal. So the way your brain works, the way dopamine works is you constantly need a goal. Once you achieve a goal, your dopamine actually drops, and your dopamine is what drives you, is what propels you to achieve things. So if you don't have another goal lined up before you achieve the one that you're on, you're in trouble. You constantly want to have several goals in sequence. So most people, they only have one goal. Hey, I'm going to drop 40 pounds. Okay, great. And then they achieve that. Their dopamine drops. They lose motivation. They lose mental vigilance, which is a whole other topic. And then they start regaining their weight, and they're part of the 97% failure rate. So step 2, after you've achieved your weight loss, is you want to reverse diet your way out of it. Anybody ever heard of a reverse diet? A few people? Okay, great. Majority not. So what's a reverse diet? So again, as you're cutting calories and increasing activity, and as I mentioned, your metabolism decreasing. I had one client once, she was down to, I'm not going to name the firm, they're really big in Canada, but they had her down on an 800 calorie diet, which is, I would never do, brutal. And of course, her metabolism was absolutely destroyed. And I didn't know what to do at that time. I didn't know about reverse dieting. If I had her today, what I would do is Week after week, we're going to increase calories by about 100 calories a day. So with that client, as an example, she's down to 800 calories. Okay, great. Next week, we're going to eat 900 calories a day. The week after that, we're going to go to 1,000, and then 1,100, and then 1,200, and 1,300. And we're going to slowly rebuild her metabolism back up to normal. And that can take a while. And again, it's really important for those of you that may have destroyed your metabolism that you go through this process. But that's not enough. So as you've rebuilt your metabolism, the next thing you want to do is maintain your weight for about 18 months. Why? Because psychologically and physiologically, you want to make this new weight your set point. So those are just some fundamentals of weight loss. So we have an entire chapter of this in our new book that's coming out. This is one of my favorite chapters in the book, and we call it the optimized metabolism approach. So again, this is a much more sophisticated version of calories in, calories out, and it helps explain and equate for a lot of the differences that some people that argue against calories in, calories out talk about. So let's talk about calories in. You got protein, carbs, fat, fiber, and alcohol. These are all different forms of calories. Now, the main two is protein and fiber. Okay, protein and fiber. Why? Protein requires a lot of energy to break it down and to utilize it. That's the thermic effect of food that you can see on the top of the calories out. It's about 30%. So if you had 1,000 calories of protein, that means your net calories from that protein is 700. Okay, that's a really important point. The other element of protein is it stimulates anabolism, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, which is really important, especially whether your goal is muscle building or fat loss. You want to try to optimize your anabolism. So about fiber. Again, fiber, you're only absorbing about 50% of those calories. It helps make you feel fuller. So fiber and protein are definitely the most important macronutrients on any diet. And of course, fats are really critical in the ketogenic diet. But let's get deeper into the calories out piece. And this is where you really optimize your metabolism, because most people only talk about exercise. So we mentioned the thermic effect of food. Again, it's about 30% for protein. Let's talk about mitochondria. What's mitochondria? It's the powerhouses that are creating energy constantly. They're producing ATP. If you increase your mitochondrial health, if you produce more mitochondria, you will burn more energy. If you've ever done NAD before, you know what I'm talking about. I'm about to do a 5-day NAD protocol in a week and a half, and it's about a 20 to 30% metabolic boost. Anybody here do HIIT workouts, high intensity interval training? What you're doing when you're doing that, you're improving your mitochondria. And a lot of people notice it's easier to get leaner. They get leaner, they get in better shape. So again, mitochondria is another way to improve metabolism. Next is anabolism. This, in my opinion, is your number one lever. I don't care if you're a 90-year-old grandmother. My grandmother is 90 years old. I wish she would go to the gym and start lifting weights. Why? Because first of all, as you get older, frailty becomes a risk. You know, people that fall down, break their hips, the mortality rate in less than a year is incredibly high. Why? Because when they stop moving, their health starts crashing, declining, and all kinds of health issues can occur. To give you a crazy example of how powerful anabolism is, I know some, let's call them extreme bodybuilders, that did an extreme protocol to build an extreme amount of muscle mass in a week. And they were eating twice the amount of calories and they were still losing body fat. They could not eat enough food to maintain they were basically not able to eat enough food. They were eating 6, 8, 9, 10,000 calories a day because their bodies were so anabolic, they could get away with eating that much. So how do you become anabolic? Well, you sleep well, you lift weights, you eat protein, and you eat protein multiple times a day. We'll get into that in just a moment. Next is NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This actually equates for a massive amount of your energy expenditure every day. Here's what most people don't realize. As you lose weight, as your body starts to lose weight your body will fight back. And one of the ways it fights back, it decreases NEAT. If you've ever done a 5-day fast, I just finished a 5-day fast a few days ago. On day 3, day 4, day 5, it starts to become difficult to even want to go to the bathroom. Why is that? Because my body doesn't want to move. It's fighting back against the lack of energy, against the lack of calories. So being aware of that is very powerful because it's going to occur, especially as you get deeper into your fat loss journey. Next is cold exposure. Anybody here doing cold exposure? I know they've got a plunge here. Cold exposure is awesome. It's another way to burn energy. First of all, there's a heat loss while you're in the water. And then we'll talk about brown fat in just a second. Next is intense brain activity. Obviously not scalable, but they've measured the energy loss or the energy expenditure of grand chess masters, and it's thousands of extra calories a day. I'm going to be doing an intense brain training for a few days. It's 5 days. And I need to eat about an extra 2,000 calories a day to just maintain my body weight. But again, not a scalable thing. Of course, exercise, to me, the foundational exercise everybody should be following is weightlifting, resistance training, 3 times a week minimum. Ideally, train your whole body 3 times a week. That's a great strategy. And then on top of that, you can add about 2 hours of cardio a week for mitochondrial health and overall health. BMR is basal metabolic rate. That's how much energy you're burning doing absolutely nothing. And as I mentioned, metabolic adaptation, you can see the arrow going down as you're losing weight, your metabolism will decrease. So that's why it's important to create strategies like the diet breaks to help minimize that metabolic adaptation. And finally, we got brown fat, which is mitochondria rich. And we have built a prototype for a brown fat cap that will actually help convert more white fat to beige fat, and your basal metabolic rate goes up a little bit as you build more brown fat. This is one of my former coaches, mentors. His name is Kevin Weiss. Kevin is a natural bodybuilding champion, world record natural powerlifting champion. He's a genetic freak. He's in his mid-40s. His testosterone naturally is like 1,100. And the strategy I'm about to share with you is, again, what he shared with me, and I've never heard anybody in the ketogenic world really talk about this strategy. And the strategy is to shift your meats to lower fat cuts over time. Here's another good friend of mine, Brendan Carter, stays lean all year long, also follows this strategy. So what is this strategy? The strategy is after about 6 months, once you're in stage 3 or stage 4 of fat adaptation, your body's so good at breaking down fats that even though you start lowering your fat percentage, you're still going to be in ketosis. And there's an example below here where I compare the classic ketogenic diet, which is 75% fat, 25% protein, with, let's call it a higher protein ketogenic diet of 50-50. And you can see there's a 150 net calorie difference, which doesn't sound like much, but that's 1.3 pounds of body fat difference a month. By just shifting, that's the same amount of calories, but the net calories is different. So how do you do that? This is a portion of the ketogenic chapter in our book. And you can see that when you start the ketogenic diet, it's a great idea to actually go eat some beef ribs. You know, go to Austin, we're here, the incredible food capital of Texas. And go eat some beef ribs, some lamb burger, some prime rib. Go get some fatty cuts, right? The fat really helps you early on. But as you get deeper into your weight loss journey and deeper into your ketogenic journey, it makes sense to start choosing leaner cuts. You don't need to eat them all the time, but moving on to ground chicken or pork loins or things like that is a great strategy, especially if you're on a dieting journey in your weight loss journey. So this is a very advanced weight loss strategy. It's simple to implement, and basically just start shifting your cuts over time to leaner and leaner cuts. Let's talk about muscle building. Anybody here on a muscle building journey? Anybody trying to build more muscle mass? Seeing a lot of hands. Love that. So first thing you want to do is stop intermittent fasting. If you are on a muscle building journey, stop intermittent fasting. Why? Because you want to get 3 to 5 protein feedings a day. Why? Because more mTOR triggering. You want to trigger mTOR. mTOR is what drives a lot of anabolic growth. You want to aim for about 20 grams of protein and 3 grams of leucine per feeding. And when I say feeding, doesn't need to be a meal. It can be a protein shake, anything that has at least like 20 grams of protein. Because if you save all your protein for 1 or 2 meals at the end of the day, you're losing out on maybe an extra or twice the amount of mTOR triggering that you could otherwise. So you can't match, and this is well researched, this is not my opinion. The muscle growth from 4 or 5 feedings a day is far superior than 1 or 2. I recommend 4. I think 4 feedings is enough. You don't need to be eating 5, 6 times a day like the old school bodybuilders. Of course, you need stimuli from weight training. You need to make sure you're training hard enough to stimulate muscle growth. This is really important. You need to be in a calorie surplus for 48 hours after the stimuli. 300 to 500 calorie surplus is enough. Okay, I'm going to share some recompositioning strategies in a minute, but 300 to 500 calories, especially the days and the day after a hard workout, is a really smart idea. And number 4 is you want to maximize your anabolic environment. That doesn't mean taking anabolic steroids. It means you want to use anything that can help improve your sleep. So growth hormone is produced in the early phases of your sleep, and testosterone is produced mostly during your REM sleep. Bioptimizers has amazing formulas that optimize both your deep and your REM, and you will help optimize your testosterone, your growth hormones naturally. And of course, there's other supplements you can use to optimize your anabolic environment. Now let's get into some more advanced strategies. And I've been able to recomp by about 20 pounds. Now, what does recomping mean? What does recomposition? It means I'm changing the composition of my body. It means that my body weight is staying the same, but I'm building lean muscle mass and I'm burning body fat. Now, this is not for people that have 30, 40, 50 pounds of body fat to lose, and it's not for people that want to build 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds of muscle mass. These strategies are for people that might want to recomp, like build 5 or 10 pounds of lean muscle mass and lose 5, 10 pounds of body fat. So the first strategy is the weekend refeeds. The strategy is you want to do fat loss during the week and muscle building during the weekend. How do you do that? You follow the anabolic diet. The anabolic diet was a cyclical ketogenic diet developed by a brilliant man named Dr. Mauro Di Pasquale. He was a professional powerlifter, a brilliant physician. And he used it to help bodybuilders lean, to protect their lean muscle mass. And the strategy is you do 5 days of ketogenic diet. And ideally, again, calories are below maintenance. And then 2 days of higher calorie, higher carbs. So what happens is you're losing body fat during the 5 days and you're building muscle mass on the 2 high calorie, high carb days if you're lifting weights, okay? By itself, nothing's going to happen. So here's some advanced strategies. If your goal is to lose body fat, so you want to emphasize getting leaner, then do a 1-day refeed with your weekly calories below maintenance. Now here's a pro tip. When it comes to weight loss, stop thinking about your calories from a daily perspective. Start thinking about your calories from a weekly perspective, because that's what matters. If you overeat today and then you cut your calories dramatically over the next 3-4 days, you're going to lose body fat. And the opposite is true too. If you fast today and overeat the next 4 days, you're going to gain body fat. So start thinking on a weekly basis. If your goal is to recomp, meaning you're trying not to lose weight, what you want to do is 2 days when you're eating carbs, you want to be at about a 500 calorie surplus. So calories still matter. It's not go eat whatever you want. And then during the week, you're slightly below maintenance and your weekly calories are at maintenance. Again, if your weekly calories are at maintenance, you're not going to gain body fat. If your goal is to gain lean muscle mass, do a 2-day refeed at 500 calorie surplus. And then during the week, you want to have a couple of days where you're in a surplus and then a couple of days where you're in a deficit. So overall, you're in a slight surplus, but not too much. Now, here's another pro tip. On those high carb days, that's when you want to train legs. You want to train back. You want to do your hardest workouts on those days. And again, obviously, there's some lifestyle benefits to following the strategy. Probably most of you have heard of Dom D'Agostino. He was in our podcast, The Awesome Health Show. And he shared this strategy. It's a great strategy, especially for people that are, athletes or training hard. And he talked about using carbs as a performance enhancer. And here's some kind of ranges that you can follow. So if you're just doing a simple workout, an easy workout, arms and abs, or just cardio, some simple stuff, 30 grams is probably enough. Now, if you're doing something a little bit harder, you can go to 45 grams, and that's during the workout. We'll talk about the recipe in a second. If you're training something like, again, back, chest, and 60 grams, and if you're really pushing it, then go to 80 grams. Your body is going to incinerate those carbohydrates, and if you test your blood sugar and ketones after your workout, you should notice zero difference from before you ingested the carbs. So the strategy is an intra-workout shake. Most people have heard of pre-workout, most people have heard of a post-workout, but here's an intra-workout recipe. 1 to 2 cups of your favorite fruits, whatever you enjoy consuming, 1 to 2 cups or scoops of your favorite protein. Here's where we're taking it next level. 3 Masszymes. Masszymes is our best-selling digestive enzyme blend. It's going to break down the protein into amino acids. You're going to be drinking amino acids while you're working out. Your body's going to help utilize those amino acids to recover from the workout in real time. We also have nootropics. I'm going to give everybody a free sample of Nectar X in a minute, tell you how to get it. But these are nootropics that help improve your workout performance. And the key is to sip throughout your workout. So you're going to blend that. And once you blend it with the Masszymes, about 30 minutes later, the protein shake's going to taste different. It's going to go from tasting like protein to tasting like amino acids. The enzymes are going to break down the carbohydrates into glycogen. So incredible strategy, simple to do. Now, I do have a few reasons why you want to do refeeds. Psychological breaks. Even Peter Attia, who is incredible, he got off the ketogenic diet because he missed rice. Maybe if he did the cyclical ketogenic diet, he would not have gotten off of it. So again, being cyclical allows you to have social gatherings, go to events. Of course, the anabolic response from the insulin is very anabolic. It helps shuttle amino acids into the muscle tissue. Very powerful. So you get an insulin boost. And don't forget, you're insulin sensitive because you're not eating carbohydrates for 5 days. There's a leptin reset from refeeding, and that's why I think when I talked about that Australian study with the diet breaks, the refeeds help with that as well. And of course, and this is a big one, you're going to get a better workout performance, not just from the days where you eat carbs, but let's say you eat carbs Saturday, Sunday, you're still going to have glycogen, carbohydrates in your body on Monday and Tuesday. So your workout performance is going to improve for about 4 days a week when you follow this strategy. And here's one last key point, metabolic flexibility. Here's what happens when you don't eat carbs. Your glycolytic pathways get weaker and weaker and weaker. What does that mean? It means your ability to actually burn carbs gets weaker. And again, I've known hundreds of people follow the ketogenic diet and go off, and then they go back to eating carbs like they did before, and they're like, man, I just blew up. I can't eat carbs anymore. Why can't they eat carbs? Is they didn't rebuild their glycolytic pathways. They were strict keto for too long, and then they went right back to kind of how they ate before. And this is a pro tip for anybody that wants to get off of a ketogenic diet. You want to slowly reintroduce carbohydrates. You don't want to go from 0 to 100. Here's one key reason why you don't want to do refeeds, or at least not do them in a structured way. And that's if you have emotional or food addiction issues or disordered eating. A client of mine, I got him on this strategy, and he was literally eating 3 tubs of Ben & Jerry's on Sunday morning, okay? So that was a real lesson for me. I learned that some people need to be on a structured diet all the time. So if you're one of these people that when you start eating carbs, you can't stop. And keep in mind, when you eat carbs, you're increasing serotonin into your brain, which helps you feel better, makes you feel stable, numbs you out a little bit. And when you're eating your favorite foods, you're also getting dopamine. So food can be very addictive. And if you're one of these people that gets a lot of pleasure from food, then you need to be a little bit careful. And I would recommend, again, making sure that your refeeds are not going off the rails by eating your favorite junk food. Here are some things that can help you optimize your cyclical refeeds. One is blood sugar breakthrough. Again, will help drive the glucose into your muscle tissue. You take 2 capsules 20 minutes before every carb meal. Gluten Guardian. If you're eating dairy or gluten, Gluten Guardian is designed to help you break down gluten. It's an enzyme blend, so you could go eat pizza. Again, if you're celiac, this is not going to cut it, but if you're just gluten sensitive, you can do that. Masszyme. So when we started this business in 2004, we were serving the bodybuilding market, and we had some extreme bodybuilders use extreme dosages to eat extreme amounts of food. But 1 capsule for about every 200 calories works. We have other digestive products like HCl Breakthrough, which will help replace or give your body more stomach acid, typically 1 or 2 capsules, and P3OM, which is a very unique probiotic strain that's proteolytic, which means it digests protein and it will help synergize with Masszymes. All right. Nutrigenomics explain why the ketogenic diet is not for everyone. And this is, again, so critical. I'm a huge fan of keto. Of course, I'm here, been a ketogenic. And I want to be clear, I haven't been ketogenic nonstop for 30 years, but the majority of the time been keto. I'm keto right now. So I'm going to give you 5 ways to kind of universally improve your ketogenic diet. And the first one is to use nutrigenomics. I'm not going to get too deep into this because I know we're running out of time. But there's certain genes, like the AMY1 or AMY1, where if you don't have that gene, then probably following a ketogenic diet is better for you. The CPT1A gene means that your body's ability to utilize fatty acids is better. And not surprisingly, because of epigenetics, Canadians and the Inuits have a higher proportion of that genetic variant. There's a lot of other genes. So here's the key thing with fasting. Reed was talking about the DHEA cortisol ratio prior, so I know some of you guys saw that. A lot of people, their health will get worse when they fast, especially when they fast too much. I've seen it. Their HRV will crash, their cortisol to DHEA ratio will go way off. And one of the reasons is because they don't have the right genetics for it. I mean, that's the primary reason. So if you have a weak PPAR alpha, then the ketogenic diet might not be good for you. So again, these are all different genes. I'm not going to go too deep into them, but there's the ADRB2, ADRB3, the ApoA2, and those genes will determine how well you do with saturated fats. And that's another pro tip. A lot of people just recommend, hey, pound coconut oil, pound meat, just eat a lot of saturated fats. But some people don't have great genetics to overdo saturated fats. Now, I think everybody needs saturated fats, but some people will do better with less. I talked about Capex. Capex is designed to help optimize your digestion on a ketogenic diet. It's a game changer on 2 levels. 1, take 1 or 2 capsules when you're eating a ketogenic meal. It'll eliminate bloating and gas and will give you more energy. Why does it give you more energy? Because it breaks down the fat into fatty acid and transports them to your mitochondria and helps boost your mitochondria. So it's beyond just digestion. It helps, again, transport the fats and give you more energy. The other way to use this is you take 4 capsules in the morning, empty stomach, and you're going to get about 6 to 10 hours of energy. No stimulants in this blend. It's all just enzymes and CoQ10 and L-carnitine and some other powerful ingredients. And when you take this product with, let's say, krill or algae, which I'm a big fan of, and you take that with other fat-soluble vitamins and molecules, you will absorb a lot more of those key vitamins, vitamin D, vitamin K, quercetin, et cetera, and we're doing extensive research in our lab on that, and we're going to be coming out with a game-changing product very soon. Speaking about fats, you want to optimize your fats. A lot of people, in my opinion, overemphasize and underdo omega-3 fatty acids. So you want to make sure you're taking enough EPA and especially DHA. DHA is critical for your brain. If you want to optimize your brain function, you need a lot of DHA. I'm about to do some brain training. We ordered a kilo of fish eggs. We're going to eat a kilo of fish eggs, me and 2 other guys, in about 4 or 5 days. Why? Because of the DHA. DHA is awesome, and fish eggs, by the way, is the best source for DHA. So try to get as many fish eggs in your diet as possible. I know online you can order some Alaskan salmon roe fish eggs at a reasonable price. Nuts and seeds. A lot of people have become anti-nuts and seeds. If you look at the literature over time on nuts and seeds, it's good. Okay, it's a good thing to eat. Now you got to be careful to overeat nuts and seeds. It's really easy to overdo nuts. They're very calorie dense, so that's where maybe measuring how many nuts and measuring your calories a little bit, especially if you're in a dieting phase, is critical. The best nuts for a ketogenic diet, one, Brazil nuts, gives you your selenium. Walnuts, macadamia nuts, pecans. The almonds have a lot of phytic acid. I'm not, again, super paranoid about it, but I think these other nuts are just better for a ketogenic diet. But make sure, again, you're measuring your nuts. And again, get some saturated fats, typically not hard to do. Butter, meat, coconut oil are all good sources, but it shouldn't be your only source of fats. All right. Next is microbiome. So I've done a lot of gut health tests on myself, and I've done it on and off ketogenic diets. Your gut biome will change radically on a ketogenic diet. And I strongly recommend that you optimize your gut biome, obviously, for your health. We have a few products that will help you. This is P3OM. It's a very unique probiotic strain. We've done extensive testing in the lab. Here's the things that are unique about it. One, it kills E. coli. So if you're traveling and you have food poisoning, this is a game changer. It's undefeated against food poisoning. It's also a GABA powerhouse. We have a $500,000 machine where we test the neurotransmitters that the probiotics are producing, and it produces a lot of GABA, and it helps break down protein. It's a very unique blend called Cognibiotics. This is a blend of probiotics that will actually help improve your mood, improve your brain function. It has 17 herbs that have been known to boost mood. And it's a dopamine powerhouse. Again, in the lab, we've measured the neurotransmitters. We haven't seen anything produce as much dopamine as Cognibiotics. And then finally, we have Biome Breakthrough. This is the ultimate healthy gut biofilm builder. We've tested virtually every probiotic we've been able to get our hands on, not just from us, but from other people, other companies. We've never seen a probiotic product blend. It's not just probiotics, a lot of other ingredients in there that actually build biofilm. And biofilm is what seals your gut. Reed was talking about leaky gut. How do you fix leaky gut? You got to seal your gut. How do you seal it with a healthy biofilm? Last but not least is add salt and minerals. So a lot of people kind of get dizzy sometimes in a ketogenic diet because they're mineral deficient. And it could be because of low blood pressure, because your body's dumping out minerals, especially as you're cutting out carbohydrates. The carbohydrates actually hold a lot of water in your muscles and in your body. So as you're cutting out carbs, you're going to lose water, you're going to lose minerals. So I'm a big fan of just using a lot of salt. I use about 5 to 10 grams of salt a day, and I feel much better when I do that. Magnesium is another big mineral that a lot of people in ketogenic diets will become deficient in. We have one of the best-selling magnesium products on the market. It's called Magnesium Breakthrough. Come check us out at Boot 400. And the last one, this is a big one, especially in a ketogenic diet. So I was on my ketogenic journey, and I was just always flat and always felt dehydrated. I was drinking a ton of water, and I realized that my potassium was low. So when I optimized my potassium to sodium ratio, it was a game changer for hydration. So one of the simple ways you can do that is you put a little bit of cream of tartar, which you probably have in your kitchen, a little bit with about 2 liters of water, put in about half a teaspoon of Himalayan salt, mix that, and drink that throughout the day. That's going to give you your potassium and your sodium. And that's it. In summary, you want to have an experimental mindset. Again, realize the keto diet is not for everybody. You want to keep an open mind, be willing to experiment, get professional help, read books, hire coaches if you can. Again, I still have a coach. Why? Because I'm not immune to my own limitations. Please pull out your phone and scan this QR code. You can get a preview of the book. The book's called The Ultimate Nutrition Bible. It's going to be 600 pages. We cover every type of diet, every type of goal. The premise of the book is what's the right diet for you and what's the right diet for you right now. We're going to help you easily create the perfect diet based on your lifestyle, your goals, and your genetics. So if you like what you heard today, this book obviously goes much deeper into a lot of things. I have some other gifts for you. If you go to our booth 400, when you come in, we're pretty much right there. We're giving away 200 tubes of Nectar X. If you've never tried nootropics, it's a great opportunity. You mix that with water. It's ketogenic friendly. It's going to give you a lot of energy and focus. And then I have another gift for you. We used to sell a program called Muscle Mastery. We sold this program for $300 around the world. We sold it for many years. You can get the training programs for free by downloading the Bioptimized app. So just scan that QR code. It should bring you to the App Store. Download it. And in the app, you can follow the training programs. It'll give you a year of training programs absolutely free. And that's it. I think we're going to do live Q&A. I'm the last speaker on the main stage today, so I'm happy to stay on stage for as long as possible and to answer everybody's questions. So thank you.